This time I'd like to call the Monday, January 4th, City of Vandalia Council meeting to order. We'll start with a moment of reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In this evening's executive session, council discussed the hiring of a new city manager, and council would like to bring forth legislation tonight with respect to said meeting. So I would like to move that we amend the agenda tonight. Have a first and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Follick and a second by Councilman Blakesley that we amend the agenda tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay. We have no approval of previous minutes. Are we getting feedback here? Okay. And we have no communications, petitions, or awards, and nor do we have a public hearing, and that brings us to comments from interested citizens. So at this time, if you'd like to make a comment, please state your name and address for our record in your comment. And if you're here to speak about the Foxfire development, this would be the time to do it. We did receive your information, your letters, and so forth, so we are well aware of that, and we appreciate all the effort that everyone's put into that. I would like to ask that if you're going to comment on this, to please limit your comments to 2 to 3 minutes and try not to repeat what other people have already said. So with that said, I'll open it up. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand. You can hit the icon on your computer or tablet, or you can just start speaking when when no one else is speaking. Can you please repeat that? We didn't hear you.
I'd just like to say that it appears that it's the same issue over and over again. We are not against anybody furthering development of the Foxfire subdivision. The issue stands as it always has, is what kind of housing are they going to put in? And that hasn't changed from day one, that they're continually set on using Fisher homes, which is a much cheaper home than what is currently exists in Foxfire. And it would be detrimental to the value of the 115 homes that already exist in the plat as it stands. We have, and I would think most of the other residents would agree, we fully expected it to be developed by McGovern and Willoughby at some point, but with the same type of housing that currently exists in the plat. That's what I've got to say. Thank you.
And we need your name and address, please.
Aaron Burke, 2400 Old Derby Court, Vandalia.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
This is Brian White. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I had a question. So I know we've talked a lot about this, but this is kind of like a new thing. Is everything that we've said before in the record and everything else like that, so we don't need to you said we don't need to repeat ourselves. I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing procedurally, so that our objections that we said maybe a meeting ago or 2 meetings ago, because this is a different thing, it's all kind of taken together. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So my main concern is actually not with Fisher Homes. It's with the small lot size. I mean, obviously with a developer, once something's plotted, anything can get built. But I think that where we are kind of my big concern is I would like to see half-acre lots, 2/3 acre lots, 0.4 acre lots, the sort of thing that we have now that would encourage larger, more stylish homes that would fit with the character of the neighborhood. Doesn't have anything to do necessarily with Fisher. I just think if Fisher had maybe 0.6 acres to work with, maybe they'd be looking at doing something a little bit differently versus if they're just, you know, they've got 0.2 acres. I mean, that's really my thing is not the home builder per se. It's just the density that we're driving to. I would like to see something where we're driving to a lower density that's compatible with what we're doing, that would encourage development like what we've seen, like in the handful of lots that weren't developed by Bill. People went in and built big, nice houses because that was what, you know, that was what fit that lot. It just seems like it's not a good fit to have small lots because then houses that fit the lot don't fit the neighborhood. And that's kind of what I have to say. My name is Brian White. I live at 2388 Cheviot Hills Lane in Foxfire.
Thank you, Mr. White. Anyone else?
Yes, my name is Vanessa Johnson and Sterling Johnson at 781 Foxfire Trail. And our question is there any way that, because we don't have a problem with, like they were saying against Fisher, but is there any way for Fisher to say what is the amount of the houses that they're trying to build there? Because last time they said it's what the market can bear. What does that mean? You know, if the market can only bear 100,000, you think you're going to drop 100,000 K house there? But to me, they should be able to state what kind of how much the equity, or not the equity, the cost of those houses are going to be. And I think people would maybe think about some other different things, and we wouldn't be so concerned about it if you know what the starting costs of those houses are, instead of just saying what the market bears.
Is Mr. Krongold on the phone here, on the Zoom?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to address that?
Not particularly, no. I'd like to continue to listen to the comments, and then I'll go into my presentation.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Yeah, this is Brian White. Just real quickly, just in terms of what the market would bear. Last two postcards I got for home sales in Foxfire were $360,000 and $380,000, and I haven't seen anything in Fisher Homes that, or any of these plans, any of these elevations that are remotely approaching an average of $370,000. And these are sales, not listings, from December.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to make comment?
Good evening. This is Leon Mabel. I live at 778 Foxfire Trail. And I would like to make the point that we understand that this was approved for development previously by City Council about 4 or 5 years ago. But that was to McGovern Willoughby custom builders. And my point is that I think that the city of Vandalia ought to try to recognize and keep the Foxfire subdivision a custom-built subdivision. There are plenty of other subdivisions that are either mixed or production in the city, and that's great. But I think we ought to keep the Foxfire subdivision reserved for a custom builder, and then that will also preserve the sale prices of our homes in this subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
Yes, this is Ken Decker from 801 Foxfire Trail. On several occasions, the residents have asked, hey, is there a representative from Fisher Homes that can come and, speak to us on these meetings? And time again, they have never showed up. My concern is we've been told Fisher Homes is the one building the homes in here. How true is that? We don't know. Mr. Krongold has been very tough on not giving full details of information, and that has me very concerned. I mean, I can sit there and say, I believe this is going to be the builder just to make people happy, and then turn around and use somebody completely different, because we've yet to hear from the official builder, not the developer, and that has me concerned greatly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment?
Yes, Alex Gunadre, 751 Foxfire Trail. I just want to thank the residents of Foxfire as we put out the letter petition yesterday, and within 24 hours, we had 60 of our residents out of 113 occupied homes in the neighborhood respond within 24 hours with a petition letter that I submitted the full stack to City Hall today to the deputy clerk there, and I hopefully all that's been passed on to all the council people. We appreciate and thank council for taking the time to review our concerns, and hope they will take time to evaluate our requests. Initially, and still our main concerns are about retaining market value of our current homes. However, in reading those letters, so I could put a summary sheet together with the packet today, a couple of new concerns came to light as well. I think that are a bit deeper, and I think the city needs to evaluate that as well. The first would be the traffic issues will become a huge concern in the following manner. The entrance of Deerhurst is the main entrance for the subdivision, and I don't see them using Foxfire Trail as an entrance, and I don't think it should be used for construction entrance. And so there'll be extensive construction entrance traffic tearing up the streets, up and down Deerhurst, and up and down possibly Bolton Abbey as well. And then once the construction is complete and the houses are full, that's another 50 to 100 plus cars in our neighborhood. And I think most of you going north on Brown School Road and understand that you need to get some energy, accelerate to get up the hill, and then you come to an immediate stop. And if you're going to have by chance a backup of cars there, I think that needs to be evaluated. Okay. Secondly, in talking with some of the neighbors, the crime, we all know that there's some of the riffraff comes in over off of Poe Avenue, and a couple residents were telling me about in their backyards that they get some random people that come through there. I know the previous builders, as they've built through on the properties abutting the properties that are on Poe Avenue, they've put a nice fence in there to help create a barrier buffer. I would hope that the new developer builder would be considerate and or required to put up a fence there to help keep the riffraff out of our subdivision. Additionally, at recent city meetings, city council meetings, we have seen other developers that are willing to bend over backwards just for one property owner in order for their large apartment complex to proceed pleasantly. Unfortunately, to date, I'm not going to speak for all the residents, but I think a lot of us in this subdivision in Foxfire have yet to see this current developer really show any interest to work with us and show respect to our concerns in finishing out our neighborhood. And lastly, the only other comment I have is I think we would probably be able to make more progress with this plat layout if we had the actual builder here that was presenting everything and not the towards the back. And they would give us more firm answers about what's actually going to happen in the subdivision. Mr. Krongold always seems to, I don't want to say dance, but he's very, doesn't really give much information to us about gives us much information about, it's always what the market bears, Well, and he's free to change his builder at any given time. He's presented that Fisher Homes is at this time is his choice, but it could change at any given time. And if we're dealing with the actual builder, we can get a lot more answers and get more concrete information to move forward. So that's my my input. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment?
Yes, Lucius Plant, 2330 Cheviot Hills Lane. I thank the council for hearing our comments, and I will be very brief because I mentioned it before, but there's nothing like looking at a development up close to tell what it's like in terms of the value of the homes and the potential loss of value if the development that's going to be brought in is not carefully planned to not take value from what is already here. Foxfire is a great attractor. It is, once signs go up, that building can go on. People will be happy to come in here where houses are brick and or an attractive combination of things to look at their homes. Now, I think that the concern I had was, my understanding is Fisher is the builder, and I don't have anything against Fisher, period. I just looked at what they're doing in 7 other developments that are going on almost simultaneously in this area. Not one of them is, well, all but 2 of them, of the 7, are standalone projects. They do not impact the value of the developments they're going in, because they're going in areas where there are no other homes. This is different at Foxfire, and I would just ask the council to be look carefully into this as it makes its decision, because what we could have is homes and the loss of great value and the breakup of a community that has worked hard. And we're in a time where homes are selling. People are getting great value for them. I think if they're presented with something that is remotely is close to what we have here, a builder could do well. But if we're going to go with 1 pallet of brick or no brick, and I think that's what I heard the last time, I'm not guaranteeing any brick. That's pretty insensitive to thinking about the thousands of dollars people could lose as they go to sell their home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Krongold, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Good evening. Happy New Year to everybody. I appreciate coming in front of you again. My name is Bob Krongold, 2880 Los Santabella Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio, representing Land Zone Limited. We're here tonight to seek the approval of our preliminary plat under the state ordinance and city zoning process. We have met and exceeded the allowable zoning guidelines and have unanimous approval from the Plan Commission for this request. To go through a little bit of recap, we've been before the city a couple times, we've been in front of the neighbors group a couple times, and in front of city council a couple times over the past 6 months. We've requested a rezoning effort, which was denied. We've heard the neighbors' concerns now 4 and 5 times, and I understand the comments. We've heard about easements on lots, making the lots unbuildable. We've heard storm drainage issues that will be addressed during our engineering plans. We've heard about the request to become a custom builder, which we're not going to meet those expectations. We've heard opinions about property valuation. We've got no empirical data, so this remains an unknown, but an opinion nevertheless. My personal opinion, this process that we're in right now is to approve our preliminary plat. It's not a forum to hear any more opinions or have arbitrary input on our design guidelines, lot sizes, lot usability. It's really one question: is the plat, the preliminary plat, is it compliant with the zoning ordinances? Fisher Homes is going to be the builder. We have a contract with Fisher Homes. This body actually requested us go back during the rezoning request and look at the underlying approved previous plan, which is what this plan is. It's compliant with the previously approved plan as far as zoning districts. Foxfire subdivision had a number of zoning districts. This particular piece of ground, half of it, was a transition district that went from R3, R2 to R4. So it was envisioned as a transition district. Again, we're compliant with the zoning ordinances. Our builder is well-respected, has vast experience, depth, and professional understanding of the market. Between myself and my partners, we have 125 years experience and have developed thousands of lots. We are not a fly-by-night organization. We will be here for the duration. We respect that the neighbors have the ability and the right to voice their concerns with council. We also feel council should follow the ordinances, allow for approval, respect our property rights to develop this property. We are compliant with the zoning requirements, the zoning district, and the state and local laws for zoning property. So with that, I'm available to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more comments?
Yes. This is Barbara Bryce. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Barbara and Dr. James Bryce. Use that. Sorry about that. We're on the corner of Deerhurst and Brown School.
Can you please try to speak up a little bit?
Okay. Let me get in a little closer. We are on the corner of Brown School in Deerhurst. Turn it on. Sorry, our phone's ringing in the background. I have a comment to what the developer said. I don't care what the zoning is. If it allows anything other than what is already here, it should not be allowed. And that's the way the people feel, and we're the voters and we're the taxpayers. That's number one. Number two, the traffic has increased greatly, and I am one of the people, my husband and I wrote the letter that was included about traffic and Deerhurst. And please take into consideration, and whoever comes in to develop, that the street and the traffic will be listened to, the problems will be listened to prior to anything being developed. Again, it's been said over and over, we do not want anything built differently than what could be equal to what is already here, period.
And if I may continue, this is Dr. Jim Bryce. What I noticed is that we've got probably a third of the community listening tonight. And I would assume from if you listen to each and every one of us, we are probably very unhappy with the size of the lots and what's being proposed right now. So you may have an okay with the zoning of the area, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're happy as a community with what's being planned at this time in the community. And Bill Willoughby is probably turning over in his grave right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. This is Alex Gunnar Dre, 751 Foxfire Trail again. I have one question that I initially asked at the very first, when Mr. Krongold had come to the very first zoning commission meeting, and his realtor representing him commented that his portfolio would enhance the property values of our homes. And the question I asked at that time is, how are smaller homes on smaller lots going to enhance the property value of the current homes in our neighborhood? And to this day, it still has yet to be answered and given any type of information. And Mr. Krongold even brought one of his specialists in from Northern Kentucky, trying to talk about how this would improve our property values in Vandalia, Ohio. And here we are today. He says he has no firm data, but he's given, many of this has been on recorded city recordings as well, where he or his associates have communicated and said how this will improve the property values in Foxfire Trail. But here we are today with no firm answers on how that's possible. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is Leon Mabel again with two comments. First of all, the developer does mention that we have opinions on what this is going to do to our property value. And per the letters that you received today, we believe that it would be beneficial to get this quantified by the Montgomery County Auditor and look at the realty groups to look at the decrease in market value of these approximately, what the development will do to our current homes, number one. Secondly, the reason we worked with Bill Willoughby in this, my wife has multiple sclerosis, and we worked with Bill to get an ADA compliant home built. It's my understanding that a production builder will not accommodate in the American with Disabilities Act. And with the aging population, we think it's beneficial to the city to have a neighborhood that can comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And council, I thank you for your time and attention.
All right, thank you. We didn't get Mr. and Mrs. Bryce's address. Can they give us their address?
898 Deerhurst. We are on the corner of Deerhurst and Brown School.
Okay, thank you.
House built.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment?
Oh, yeah, this is Ken Decker again, from 801 Foxfire Trail. Previously, Mr. Krongold has said, you know, he does take consideration to the neighborhood and the residents, but I think just by his tone and the way he speaks about the community members and so forth, I have to disagree with that strongly. You know, and also his survey company has already been out here surveying, and they're putting holes in the street that they've yet to fix. Now, I'm from New York, and I know how potholes are created. You put a hole in the street, you don't fix it, they start getting bigger. And I've already gone around, I've counted, there's at least 6 4x4 squares in the street that his company has already caused damage to the infrastructure that hasn't been fixed yet. How much more damage is he gonna do trying to make money?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that hasn't already spoken yet have a comment?
Diane, raise your hand.
What was that, Darren?
Diane?
Diane, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Earlier, this is Diane Dolan, 745 Foxfire Trail. And earlier, Vanessa and Sterling had asked the question, and it still hasn't been answered, unless I missed it, as to what the value of these new homes would be. I don't understand why we can't get an answer on that. Nobody knows?
Mr. Krongold, would you like to address that?
I don't have a satisfactory answer for anybody regarding that. The price point, I'm not the marketing person, but I think the price point will be probably, I don't want to speak to the price point. It's really not relative to this request at this point in time. This is a request to approve the preliminary plat. These side discussions, I understand, I've heard them a number of times. I understand the concern, but this is not the forum. This is not a zone change request. This is not the forum to discuss arbitrarily different aspects that everybody is throwing out there for the 5th and 6th time. This is not the forum for that. This is a request for the preliminary plat approval. Again, we're compliant with the zoning. There are zoning laws that allow us to go through this process, request the approval of the preliminary plat, and get a decision from council. And that's what we're here to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Again, is there anyone that hasn't already spoken, have a comment?
I have a comment. This is Kimberly and Michael Bish of 792 Foxfire Trail. And, you know, I understand that this is relative. Our concerns is there's just a lot of information out there that we are being asked to believe and to understand. And this is our neighborhood. We take pride in it. We care. We love where we live. Many of us that, you know, I agree. All of us know, and we all agree that this is going to be developed. We are all very well prepared, and we know that's going to happen. Many of us that build here, though, we chose this neighborhood because of the opportunity to live in a neighborhood that's unique. It shows quality, and it differentiates itself from other neighborhoods that are out there. There's not a mix of production homes and upper higher level value homes. Like Mr. Mabel said, we chose this neighborhood and we chose to build a custom build home. You know, it took a lot more of our finances to do this, but we chose the custom build home because we needed a home that was ADA accessible for our daughter. And this is going to be our daughter's forever home. We took the time, we took the effort, everything is ADA accessible. We spent more to get our home higher level up so there are no steps in our home. We searched other neighborhoods. We searched the production homes. Nobody could build the home that we needed for her for forever home. And I'm very disappointed because when we checked the neighborhood out, you know, we spoke to Mr. Willoughby, and I understand that he's not here and he's not able to carry on his legacy. But one of the things that was told to us is that this is a custom home built neighborhood, and that the homes that would be built here would have a different value to them. They would be all different. They would be brick. And we made that a choice to live in this neighborhood. We had the opportunity to meet the wonderful neighbors that were here. And, you know, it may not be relative to Fisher Homes. I'm getting a lot of, you know, because I looked at the home build, so I'm getting a lot of things on Facebook. And I'm not seeing the home values that are popping up that are anywhere near the value of our homes. And that is a concern. So it may be relative and it may be our opinions, but our opinions do matter.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Yes. Can you hear us? Jane Gorman and Denny Gorman?
Yes, please go ahead. Your address?
Yes, we live at 722 Deerhurst Drive, and it just seems to me that Mr. Krungold is quite evasive on a lot of his answers. If that being the case, why won't Fisher Homes come in front of the people and hear what they have to say? Why are they not interested enough to find out what the people in the neighborhood want or would like to see, that they won't even show up for a meeting? And he said, bring his marketing people to tell us what the marketing is about when they go into their marketing. And driving through the homes over in Huber Heights, the Fisher Homes, they're 8 feet apart. And there's nothing like that in this plan. So, I mean, they're looking at a totally different setup if that's what they're planning. And if they're not willing, it seems to me they're not interested in anything other than making money if they're not willing to come and present themselves to the neighbors and the people that they will be dealing with. Thank you.
I'd also like to say that we just built, we might be one of the last builds for Bill, but we came to this neighborhood, we looked and looked and looked. We lived in a very large house. We raised 4 children there on a lot of land, and we needed, at our age, something just a little bit smaller. Our lot is perfectly a good size. Our grandkids play football out there. We're back away from the street. We worked with Bill, and we have a custom built home. We do not just have his version of a smaller home. We have over 2,000 square feet. We do not have a basement because I have had 2 knee replacements since we've moved in. So that was a concern for us to not have to have a basement. Bill built us a huge attic that we can now, after knee replacements, we can get up to, so we have lots of space. And we knew we were on the last street, so we weren't in the middle of the larger and more expensive homes. And you can't find what Bill built us anywhere else, especially staying in the north end of town.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Yes.
Yeah,
This is Fran Robinson. I'm at 740 Deerhurst Drive. I just wanted to speak to the builder. I know that you hear the concerns and the frustration of those that live in the development. It appears as if what you presented tonight is just sort of a narrow view of what your idea is of what this meeting is about. And I think if you would even begin to address or act as if you hear the concerns, you are going to maybe take that into consideration. If the concerns of those in the development are a part of what it is that your marketing team is taking a look at, you see, we don't hear any of that. Your narrow presentation is just about zoning. I believe that's what you said. But you haven't even let the residents know, I hear you, I hear your concerns. We're going to take some of these things into consideration. It's important to the development that I represent. You see, we don't hear any of that. And that's why person after person after person continues to really address their concerns about the property value, about the traffic, about the size of the home, about the market value, all of that. So if you never address any of that, you're going to hear it over and over and over again because the comfort level is not there for those of us that live in the development. I'm wondering if you can speak to that as opposed to just talking about what you're here for today. Can you speak to the residents about what they're saying? Okay, maybe you can't answer every single question, but do you hear it? And what is it that you are doing about it? Thank you. Thank you to council.
That was eloquently put. Thank you for taking the tone down a little bit. I really do appreciate that. I understand this is an adversarial relationship at this point. The viewpoints have been conveyed to us a number of times, and we have tried to listen to you and evaluate what you're asking. One thing specifically that I can talk to you about, Francine, is that in a conversation with Fisher Homes, they did mention that their first model, they are contemplating doing a brick product, an all brick product to try to dovetail into the neighborhood, A, and B, see what the market reacts to that model home. That'll have the bells and whistles, brick, and it'll be one of their higher priced products. So they have heard your concerns. They're as professional as an outfit as come, and they will do what they can to fit into the neighborhood. They know, we all know it's a great neighborhood. We agree that it's a beautiful neighborhood. It's well maintained. The concerns have been heard, at a certain point, we just can't deliver what you want. We're not, the site's been sitting there for 6 or 7 years. You guys had the ability to buy it and control it, just like anybody else in the market had the ability to buy it and develop it. It sat there and remained undeveloped. There's a reason for that. I don't know what it is. We, when I talk to you specifically about zoning issues, that's the point we're at. It's a fact. It comes down to what are we allowed to do there? And as professionals, we know what we're allowed to do there. We know what the process is. We're compliant with the process. Everything else is these opinions and discussion points. I'm sorry to sound, cut and dry, but this is not the time anymore for the process of give and take, evaluating property values. What's the product look like? Can we do brick? Are we custom builders? Of course, we can build ADA compliant homes. We're past that point. As a business matter, we're in a very defined area now of a zoning process. It's not open to, the arbitrary discussions about will you do brick? Can you be a custom builders? Will you do bigger lots? Will it bring bigger homes? And that's all behind us. That sort of is the process. When you're going through a rezoning effort, there's some give and take on both sides and some negotiations. We're past that. We've been denied the rezoning effort. We're into a process. We've been at this for 6 months. We need to move forward. And this is again, it may sound contrite, but this is our focus now is the land is zoned. It has a zoning on it. You may not like it, you may not agree with it, but that's the law per se. You may not agree with the law, you may not respect the law, but there is an underlying zoning that we're compliant, that we have now property rights to develop this property. Will Fisher Homes, meet you as a group and try to address some concerns? Yes, they will. They'll reach out to you when they get ready to set up their marketing trailers. I said this before, some of your sons and daughters or people may be buying homes in there, may be your neighbors. But we're sort of past the point of negotiating any aspects of development. We're asking for what is the law? What is the underlying zoning? We're compliant. We hear your concerns. I can't address all your concerns. I just can't do it. So frankly, I've heard them 5 and 6 times. They've not changed. We understand them. Sometimes you got to agree to disagree. We just can't. We're not a custom builders. We're not going to be a custom builder. The lot sizes are compliant. The product's going to be built by Fisher Homes. They've been around for a long time. They know what they're doing. They build a quality product. Will you have construction traffic in there? Yes. Will you have disruption in your community? Yes. Is the site accessed by a public road system? Yes. Do we have the right to use the public roads? Yes. Will we do our best to police the site? We sure will, but you're going to have some disruptions. And that's the fact of building out a community with the very last section that has 2 streets stubbed to it. You acknowledge it will be built one day. It's going to be built one day. There is going to be disruption. I can only tell you we'll address your concerns when they come up, and we'll do our best to be good neighbors. But yes, there's going to be some disruption, and I can't do anything about that. So I will volunteer if you have a committee that you would like to meet with Fisher. I will do my best to arrange that. I think they'll be glad to sit down with you. If it's 2 or 3 people in your group, they have been following the zoning process. They know the concerns. So would they be willing to meet with you and talk about it? I think yes.
All right.
So I really don't have anything else to add. The questions are kind of recirculating. I understand them. We're here in front of council to ask something very specific, and that's where we're at right now.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody that's made comments here tonight. I'd like to one last time ask if there's anybody that has anything they would like to add that hasn't already spoken.
Hey, Mayor, this is Bob Ayers. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like a question for Mr. Cromwell. Do you have exclusivity building back there with Fisher Homes? Or if
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So they would be the only builder that you would allow building on these lots?
You know, yes, the answer is yes, but things change. I mean, we have a contract with them. They're our builder. We have done a number of other jobs with them. And I tell you, if there's a nuclear war and those lots remain on the ground for 15 years, would we bring in another builder? Probably. But yes, it is.
Okay.
They are specifically our builder for this subdivision, and we have a contract with them to do so.
I think one of the primarily the concern the residents have back here is they want some protection. Now, I looked at Fisher Homes. They've got about 28 different models, I think, and some of them are fairly low end. So if someone comes back in there and contracts with Fisher Homes, I mean, what prohibits them from putting up a 1,200 square foot home with a one-car garage? And what I'm leading to is that I think if we could sit down with Fisher Homes and lay down some minimum requirements, if they would agree to, and such things as a minimum of 2-car garage, brick in the front. I'm not a siding expert, but a middle of the road or upper type siding for the rest of the house, and possibly a minimum square feet of 1,800 square feet of living space. I think that would go a long ways in saying that the type of houses that's going to go up back there will have a fair value. You think Fisher would agree to something like that? I mean, and these standards we could sit down and review that and work it out with them. But is that asking too much?
Well, I'll say this. Again, it's not part of this hearing. It's not part of this request in front of council. So if I can tell you that after the fact, we can arrange a meeting and see, I'm sure Fisher's reasonable people. They would be willing to meet with you and discuss things. I can't commit to anything regarding their business practices, but I think it's a reasonable request to make. I just don't want to make it a part of this process. It's something we can consider, and I'll bring it in front of Fisher, but again, it's not part of the request in front of council tonight.
Oh, I don't quite understand that, because if this, your request gets approved tonight, I mean, you're off and running. I mean, there's nothing to stop, or there's no leverage to negotiate. You've got your approval. You're going to develop the streets, the water, the sewage. You're going to bring in Fisher Homes, and you're off and running. So I'm not sure when the proper time is to discuss this if we're not discussing it now.
Barbara Bryce again, please.
I'm sorry?
Can I finish answering the question, please?
Yes, I'm sorry.
We're going to have to move this along here, okay?
Yes.
All right. So that will end the discussion on Foxfire. Is there anyone else that would like to make comments on any other topics? Okay. Moving on, we'll move on to the city manager's report, and we'll start with the information items. Mr. Althouse.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just for the public's record, the city offices will be closed on Monday, January the 18th in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The second meeting in January will thus be held on Tuesday, January the 19th at 7 p.m. Second information item is that the city is having a Christmas tree recycling program. The Parks and Recreation and Public Works Departments are offering Vandalia residents free recycling of their Christmas trees. Residents can drop off their trees at the sports complex until January 20th. Beginning the first week of January, residents can also dispose of Christmas trees by placing them at the curb for pickup by Rumpke on your regular trash day.
Thank you. And we have some action items also.
Yes, action item number 1 is the appointment of representatives for the 2021 Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission and Technical Committee. Vandalia is required annually to appoint a representative and an alternative representative to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission and the Transportation Coordinating Committee. An individual must also be designated to serve as the technical committee member. Currently, Mayor Herbst is the representative, and Amber Holloway is the alternate representative to the MVRPC. Rob Cron is the current delegate to the technical committee.
All right, thank you. And since we have 4 of these tonight, if it's okay with council, I would suggest that maybe we vote by acclamation all at once rather than going through each one of these individually. So if you want to go ahead and just read the
Sure thing.
items each.
Okay, action item number 2 is the appointment of representatives for the 2021 First Suburbs Consortium. The City of Vandalia is required annually to appoint 2 representatives and an alternate representative to the First Suburbs Consortium. The current representatives are Mayor Herbst and Vice Mayor Ehlers. The current alternate is Councilman Lewis. Action item number 3 is the appointment to the Montgomery County Community Improvement Corporation. This committee requires the mayor of the City of Vandalia to be appointed annually. And action item number 4 is the reappointment of council representative to the Vandalia Development Corporation. This board requires 2 council member appointments, 1 council appointment to be made in even years, which is currently Councilman Blakesley, and 1 council appointment to be made in odd years, currently Councilwoman Woods. Hence, council would be asked to appoint a VDC representative for the odd year appointed member.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion?
Your Honor, I'll move to keep all appointments the same for 2021.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Pollack and a second by Councilman Blakesley that we keep all appointments the same and vote by acclamation. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Blakesley.
Yes.
Councilmember Pollack.
Yes.
Councilmember Farst.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ehlers.
Yes.
Mayor Herbst.
Yes, and the motion carries 7-0. We have no old business, and that brings us to our first resolution of the night, and that is Resolution 21-R-01. Mr. McDonald, by title only.
A resolution approving the Foxfire preliminary plat.
Thank you. Mr. Althouse.
Thank you, Your Honor. The applicant Land Zone Limited is requesting preliminary plat approval for 22.45 acres of land located in the Foxfire subdivision. This preliminary plat would create 58 single-family residential lots between 2 zoning districts. The residential single-family 4 district occupies 7 acres and is proposed to have 29 lots with the average lot size of 8,352 square feet. The residential single-family 2 district occupies 15 acres and would also have 29 lots with an average of 14,925 square feet in area. All 58 lots proposed meet the lot development standards. At its meeting on December 8th, 2020, the Planning Commission voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the preliminary plat with the following conditions. Number 1, the final plat shows the 34-foot wide access easement connecting to Poplar Creek Road. And number 2, the portion of the 34-foot wide access easement on the subject property shall be maintained in good condition.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
I move that we deny the request of this Resolution 21-R-01. And the rationale that I have is that in our code, in our zoning code, there are a lot of provisions, A through H, and in point number G, it states that the subdivider has taken every effort to ensure that the public health, safety, and welfare are perpetuated by the proposed subdivision. I just don't think this thing has been analyzed. Citizens' concerns could be addressed, and I think further discussion is needed. So I'm voting to deny the 21-R-01.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. That's James Price, 898 Deerhurst.
I'm sorry, but this is for council members.
Okay.
I take it I do not have a second. All right.
So the motion to deny is, fails for a second, but we still have the question on a motion for approval, whether or not that's made.
As a point of order, could I request Mr. McDonald to maybe run through the criteria to which we are going to be required to evaluate the preliminary plat in terms of our decision, and that may guide us relative to a decision whether to approve or not to approve, and thus the motion.
I concur.
This would be under section 121409D1 of the zoning code, which provides, in reviewing and making recommendations and decisions on a preliminary plat, City Council shall take into consideration the following criteria. A, that the subdivision plat complies with all applicable provisions of this code. B, that the subdivision plat does not conflict with other regulations, the comprehensive plan, or other adopted plans and policies of the city. C, the applicable review agencies have no objections that cannot be resolved by the applicant. D, that public facilities, including but not limited to streets, water, sanitary, and storm sewers, will be adequate to support the service, the area of the proposed subdivision, and that definite provision has been made for a water supply system that is sufficient in terms of quantity, dependability, and quality to provide an appropriate supply of water for the type of subdivision proposed. E, that the proposed subdivision will not result in isolated subdivision of land that leaves undeveloped parcels of land lacking urban services between developed parcels. F, that the subdivider has allowed sufficient area to meet the requirements of open space if applicable. G, that the subdivider has taken every effort to ensure that the public health, safety, and welfare are perpetuated by the proposed subdivision. And H, that the subdivider has incorporated in the proposed subdivision the recommendations described in the approved traffic impact study when such study is required, that are determined necessary by the Planning Commission or the Director of Public Services.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I have one further question, and to illuminate council, I had requested of Mr. McDonald an opinion relative to Section G prior to the meeting, and I believe that's Vice Mayor Ayler's point that he was making. Specifically, the section says that the subdivider has taken every effort to ensure that the public health, safety, and welfare are perpetuated by the proposed subdivision. And I asked Mr. McDonald, what is welfare? I know what public health and safety are generally, and all of these are terms of art that can be used descriptively in many forms of legislation, in this case a city ordinance. And I asked, what is welfare? What does that mean? The primary consideration or issue related to this preliminary plat plan is the diminution of value or the potential diminution of value brought upon the existing residents by the propagation of a new subdivision without the same types of building considerations that existed when their homes were constructed. And Mr. McDonald, your opinion was related to that question of diminution.
The research that we had done showed that when you're looking in terms of what constitutes public welfare cannot be based upon an injury to private property. And that it's, in one particular case, it said is fundamental that a showing of diminution of value due to a zoning ordinance taken alone is insufficient to invalidate an existing ordinance.
Taking that information, I'm going to make a motion, and then I'd like to explain my motion, if you will. And I will, with trepidation, move to approve the preliminary plat that has been proposed with the suggestions by the Planning Commission, and also, I believe it was talked about, a HOA relative to the vacant land existing in the plan, so that those areas will be hopefully taken care of in perpetuity by the owners.
Second. I have a motion by Councilman Lewis and a second by Councilman Blakesley that we approve Resolution 21-R-01 with the comments that he's made.
Could we make that a condition of this plat approval, please?
Yes, that was,
HOA.
that was my intent.
HOA.
So it's an approval with the conditions, the two conditions of the Planning Commission, and an additional condition that an HOA be formed to take care of the open space land.
Correct. And now if I might explain my motion. Oh, do we have a second on this?
Yes.
First, I sympathize with everybody in the Foxfire subdivision, and I agree with their concerns. But when we read the review criteria, which are very specific as to the scope of our review for a preliminary plat, it does not allow us, the law doesn't allow us to take into consideration what is the fundamental issue of diminution of value. And I would suggest that if we allow that to guide us, that it will do nothing, it won't stop the preliminary plan, and the applicant would perhaps have standing to take us to court, and it would, in my opinion, is not going to ultimately get the residents to where they need to be. And then I'm going to hearken back to my experience. I live in a subdivision, Woodland Meadows, that is adjacent to Foxborough. Foxborough was the preceding subdivision. The homes are somewhat smaller and of somewhat more limited than the new construction in Woodland Meadows. Homes are bigger and were built by custom builders as well. And the two communities are hooked together. They're adjacent to each other, similar in nature to the proposed. And I have not, in the last 20 years, noted any diminution of value because of the proximity from that group of homes to the other group of homes. So based on that, and specifically the rules before me, I don't know that we can offer any other opinion but to pass the preliminary plat. And that is unfortunate.
If I can speak as a second, why I seconded it, wanted to get it to conversation, but I agree with Councilman Lewis, and, you know, I have the same trepidation. I grew up in a custom home, and the area had developed out in a similar situation. There wasn't really anything that could be done because of the underlying zoning. Everything was in place as it had been, and our hands are somewhat tied by our own code and meets law, and this preliminary plan does meet and is compliant with our own zoning as it's assigned. And I understand the design build or the design of the concerns and some of the traffic concerns. I do understand all that. Wish there was a different way to have this go. But this is, as it was already presented, that it meets and exceeds that. I'm sure more we could do.
Go ahead. So just a couple things. Again, I thank Councilman Lewis for his explanation of everything, and I agree with his rationale in his motion this evening. I want to thank the residents of Foxfire. I've spoken with some of you individually over the course of the past several months. I share some of your concerns about the development, but as the applicant pointed out this evening, what's in front of council tonight is a process that we have to look at from what is permitted by our zoning code. And we can't deviate from that, or else we could have other issues down the road. And I think, just to make sure that everyone's clear, that, you know, the council did take action to stop the rezoning that would have allowed that entire development to be at a higher density than what it is now. The zoning that's in place now is the same zoning that was requested by McGovern Willoughby, and I believe it was back in 2014 that it was last updated and approved by Planning Commission and City Council at that time. So the zoning that's in question has been in place for six or more years. And the plan obviously was for McGovern Willoughby to continue building custom homes on that land because he owned that development. And I think that's what everybody in Foxfire wanted to happen. Unfortunately, over the past several years, I think because of market factors, custom homes have not been built back there at the rate that the builder wanted or the developer wanted previously, and probably some other residents back there. I mean, there are still several, you know, I think we're down to 3 remaining lots back there that are already plotted that have been available for custom building for years. And that has to be taken into consideration. And there's nothing in place now either that requires somebody to build a custom home on those lots. And that's something that in hindsight, you know, if the city were to, and again, that development's been there probably since the early 2000s, but in hindsight, a PUD is probably the better option for that development so that there is not an issue of developers changing hands or builders changing hands down the road, and there's more control on the city's end to control the design elements of that development. Or the other option would have been an HOA to have been established years ago in Foxfire that would have also set covenants and restrictions on property development, and that wasn't in place by the builder and developer at the time either. I think, you know, I'm hoping that the developer moving forward has heard, and I know that Ms. Robinson very eloquently explained that this evening, and I thank her for doing so. But I'm hoping that the developer and the builder, as they move forward, will take into consideration the concerns of the neighborhood, the established residents that have, some of them have lived there since the development was built, and some have moved in, because of the desirability of that neighborhood. And moving forward, I'm glad to hear that the applicant this evening stated that Fisher's considering a higher-end model home as a starting point. I hope that comes to realization. I still have concerns with the substantial development restrictions that are on 3 lots. But with that being said, they meet our zoning code. And in the final plan, I hope that staff and the planning commission, when that comes before staff review and planning commission review, that any of those concerns are eliminated, whether engineering proves them not to be able to be substantiated. And those are all concerns I've brought up previously that the applicant's aware of. So with that being said, even though I empathize with a lot of the residents, and I have some of the same concerns based on the criteria that we are required to consider the preliminary plat this evening, I'm going to have to support that decision tonight. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Fairst.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley.
Yes.
Councilmember Follett.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ayers.
No.
Mayor Herbst.
Yes, and the motion carries 6-1. We have no ordinances in their first reading, nor do we have any ordinances in their second reading, and we do have one emergency ordinance. Mr. McDonald?
Yes, this would be Emergency Ordinance 2101. It is the ordinance we discussed at the beginning when we amended the agenda. This is an ordinance authorizing a contract regarding the position of city manager, setting the salary of the city manager, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Follett and a second by Councilman Blakesley to approve emergency ordinance 21-01. Mr. McDonald, does this need to have a public hearing?
Yes, because it is an emergency ordinance, it would require a public hearing.
And since this is an emergency ordinance, I would like to open up a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak on emergency ordinance 21-01, please state your name, and address, and your comments. Being none, I'll close the public hearing. Call the roll.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley.
Yes.
Councilmember Follett.
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ayers.
Yes.
Mayor Herbst.
I'm currently working with Dan and his family on finding a home here in the city of Vandalia, and the city attorney has indicated that it's not likely to be a direct conflict or any type of unethical issue. Therefore, I'm going to abstain from the vote merely to avoid the appearance of any impropriety. So the motion carries 6-0 with one abstain.
Correct. Congratulations.
Welcome.
Okay. Next, we're moving on to reports from boards and commissions. And the first one is a variance for a wall at 4300 Little York Road. Mr. Althouse?
Thank you, Your Honor. James and Stephanie Richardson have requested a variance to allow a 10-foot tall privacy wall on property located at 4300 Little York Road. The code limits fences and walls in residential zoning districts to 6 feet in height. The applicant intends to construct the privacy wall along the rear property line for a span of 170 lineal feet to act as a visual buffer from the proposed Redwood development. At its meeting on December 9th, 2020, the Board of Zoning Appeals voted 5-0 to recommend approval of this request.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the variance at 4300 Little York Road for the fence.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Blakesley and a second by Councilwoman Fairst that we approve the variance at 4300 Little York Road. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Woods,
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Pollak,
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ayers,
Yes.
Mayor Herbst.
Yes, and the motion carries 7-0. Next, we have a variance for nonconforming use expansion at 405 Kenbrook Drive. Mr. Aldhouse?
Thank you, Your Honor. Muffler Brothers is requesting a variance to allow the expansion of a non-conforming automotive repair and service use at 405 Kenbrook Drive. Muffler Brothers currently occupies 2,100 square feet of the 4,500 square foot building. Muffler Brothers has requested to expand their automotive repair and service use into the remaining 2,400 square feet of vacant space. At its meeting on December 9, 2020, the Board of Zoning Appeals voted 4-1 to recommend approval of the request subject to the following conditions. Number one, a parking plan is submitted and approved at the time of the nonconforming use expansion. Number two, all service areas are screened to full capacity from the right-of-way and less intensive uses per Code Section 1232.06C, screening of service areas. Number three, the easternmost parking lot is screened with a 6-foot in height opaque fence from the adjacent residential uses and public right-of-way. Number four, the 150-foot wide south-facing building facade is screened from the adjacent residential uses by providing one shrub every 10 lineal feet, excluding the area obligated to be screened per condition number 2. And number 5, the shrubs at time of planting shall be no less than 3 feet in height.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
I move that we approve the variance at 405 Kenbrook Drive as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Fairst and a second by Councilman Blakesley that we approve the variance at 405 Kenbrook Drive as presented. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Pollak,
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Woods,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ayers,
Yes.
Mayor Herbst.
Yes, and the motion carries 7-0. That brings us to council comments. Mr. McDonald?
I just want to say this was a difficult meeting for a lot of you, and sometimes when you have to follow what the law says, it can be very difficult for elected officials. It's a very hard thing to do. Councilmember Pollak and Councilmember Lewis really expressed the reasoning why, made my job a little bit easier here and saved the city a lot of money, I think, in the long run. So I wanted just to applaud council for taking some very difficult action this evening.
Thank you. Chief Althouse?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Woods?
No, thank you.
Councilman Pollak?
Yes, real quick, I got an email today. I don't know if everybody got it or not, but we were awarded again the Tree City USA designation for 2020, apparently. I don't know if it's because I'm on park board that I got the email from the organization or the forestry, but the city, I think, got awarded that again, was announced today. So especially in a year that we couldn't do a lot of things we had to normally do, and that Parks and Rec staff was able to achieve that and meet that criteria for another year. So congratulations to them. And just again, congratulations and welcome to our new city manager, Mr. Wendt. We're looking forward to you joining us here in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Fairst?
Just a happy new year to everyone and congratulations, and we're glad to have you on board and we're excited for 2021. So great. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lewis?
Other than to congratulate Dan and welcome him aboard, and I'm glad you could see how much fun public service can really be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Blakesley?
I want to also welcome Mr. Wendt aboard, city manager. Looking forward to it. And as you can see, we work well together, and I think we'll be a good team.
All right. Thank you. Vice Mayor Ayers?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple things. First of all, I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year from City Council. We're all looking forward to a prosperous 2021. And I'd also like to recognize Ms. Julie Trick and her efforts in the recruiting the city manager. She made the process very smooth for all of us. I think she knew exactly what the city was looking for, and she was able to find that person. And we're all very thrilled to have Mr. Wendt joining us as our city manager, and I know he's going to take us to the next level. And I believe you're as excited about this as we are.
That's right, sir.
All right, thank you. But anyway, in any case, I just want to formally introduce you to the city of Vandalia. We are happy to have you here. We're here to welcome you, and we want to make this, one of the best communities around. Also, I'd like to recognize Mr. Richardson and the Redwood Development for moving forward and working in harmony to keep that development moving on track. And also, I'd like to mention that if your New Year's resolution was to get in shape and maybe shed a few pounds, our city rec center is offering 19% discounts on the rec membership. So this might be a good opportunity to save a few dollars and maybe get in a little bit better shape. And with that, that's all I have. So this meeting is adjourned.